Hey guys, how's it going? This is Dave Sebastian, coordinator of mentoring arts programming with Wayside Youth and Family. I am here with you once again doing some open studio programming. Um, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about my programs and how I get to be here working with you guys. Today we're going to work on spraying the custom stencils we've been making over the last week. Last week I was spraying the first of the stencils that we made. That was on Friday. So today we're back. We're back working on it again. I've created some additional custom stencils so that we can do some more spraying today. I don't know how far we'll get. It's kind of always like that. 2 hours goes extremely quickly when working, I guess. So that is how long we're together today. I apologize for being a few minutes late. We are going to go until 2 o'clock today. I'm going to try to cover as much material as possible. Been having a great time doing this work with you guys. I hope it's going well. Let me tell you a little bit about my programming and what brings me here with you today. Trying to put my gloves on. Airbrushing, is a little bit on the messy side, so it's a good idea to wear gloves whenever you can. As everybody knows, gloves are getting a little on the hard to find side. These black gloves, which are not rated for disease, I believe, they're basically to keep our fluids separated in tattooing, but they work pretty good. So this is what I am going to use to do today's project. So like I said, I'm coming to you guys from Shirley today. This is my home studio. I know it's a little bit messy. Apologize. We are in a little bit of a tight space here, but you know how it is. We work with the space we have. So I am brought to you guys by Wayside Youth and Family, which is a human service agency out of Framingham. I've been working with these guys for about 7 years. What we have done is partnered up with the Department of Mental Health to create arts programming throughout Central Mass. Along towards that goal, we have built a basement studio in Tempo Young Adult Resource Center. That's also in Framingham. We do open studio programming there on Wednesdays and Fridays when we're allowed to go back to work. Those programs are open to anyone 16 to 26. And we mostly do sort of whatever folks want. It's an open studio program. I've filled the studio with all different types of media, mostly obviously ones that I'm pretty comfortable with, but some experimental stuff too. Sometimes it's cool to try something different. I definitely consider myself to be a multimedia artist, and I think that's one of the best ways to stay inspired is to go out and try different stuff. I don't know about you guys, but I occasionally get artist block and stuff, and the best thing to do for me is to switch media. Different art supply are dramatically different in what they look like. Excuse me. So, it's totally worth it to switch up and try something different. I think right now most of the media I'm working with are airbrush, ink tints, which is a watercolor type of product, paint marker, traditional dye markers, scratchboard, collage. Well, that's a pretty good to start, right? That's 6 media that I'm working with basically every week. I think everybody should try that. I found it's hard to afford, but you just keep buying little pieces as you go. Right now I'm in a spot where I have a lot of gear, and I haven't done as much work with it as I wish I had. Apologize for this, but talking for a long time is hard on me. Okay. So that's a little bit about my programming. When I'm not in the studio, I'm bringing those programs to anyone within that age limit throughout Central Mass. I usually work with folks that are in some way connected to the Department of Mental Health, but not exclusively. I've worked in schools, youth centers, outpatient clinics, libraries, residential programs, really anywhere that young adults are. You know, I'm looking for those guys to try to reach out and help a little. You know what I mean? So today we're going to be talking about airbrushing. If you guys aren't familiar with airbrushing, let me show you a little bit about what we're going to do and why, kind of. This is my video mixer is over here, so I apologize for reaching up this way. I usually try to put it in a place that I can be a little subtle with, but I just didn't have enough room this time. So if anybody's interested, I'm working with Switcher Studio to do my video, and it is an awesome full-service video mixer that's completely virtual. It's a Mac product. It mostly only works with Mac machines, and you do need several Mac machines to make it work. Right now I'm using 2 iPad Pros and my iPhone. We can add up to 6 cameras, and I haven't tried that, but I'm going to keep trying. I'm sleeping. Apologize to you guys. I swear to God, I slept last night. Of course, I have kids, so you only sleep so much, really. All right, anyway, so we're going to talk about the airbrush. What we're using for an airbrush is this guy right here. This is a Grex. That's why it has these rubber pieces on it. I like Grex. Grex is more of a tool company, but I really enjoy their airbrushes. I feel like they're different, and I kind of enjoy having something that's a little bit different. Working with a American California Air Tools compressor, which is I think a 2-gallon silent compressor, although you'll find that it is not silent. When it runs, it makes a little bit of noise. Not too bad. It's quieter than my last compressor, which was a Silent Air, ironically. Silent Air is just the production company. Unfortunately, it is not the sound, you know. It's kind of like at McDonald's, they have all beef patties. And so people tested them and found that they weren't all beef. You know, there's some filler and stuff in there. The company that makes the burgers is called All Beef. No lawsuit. You guys didn't understand. Totally slimy. Anyway, that is what we're going to do. Now, hold on one sec. I got to grab my cup here. Maybe I'll grab these tools to show you guys, too. All right. Sorry, you guys. What I had to grab is the paint cup for the airbrush. This is, probably the dirtiest part of the airbrush because, of course, this is where we pour the paint into. So the airbrush here, obviously, this guy screws in here. I have several different size cups. I haven't needed a giant cup. Like if you take a look at this one, which is also a Grex, but a trigger style. Really like this one. This is really, really cool. But look at the size of the cup on this guy. It's an absolute monster. And I always feel like I'm underusing a cup that size, And you got to wash the same cup, whether you put 2 drops in or half a bottle, whatever fits in there. So these are double action. I'm sure everybody knows about double action airbrushes, like down for air, back for paint. Couple things to keep in mind with airbrushing is overspray, which is a super huge problem, probably the number one problem of airbrushing. And then remember, it's air, then paint. Because if you do air and paint at the same time, it's going to spit. And oftentimes when you begin painting, whatever is stuck here on the tip is going to spit. So you want to start off the artwork and then move on. Feel like my pressure is up just a little bit high here. There we go. All right. You can hear how much pressure is in it just by listening. Now I will tell you, if there's any paint in there, even residue, don't spray it in your ear. I have done it. It's extremely foolish. And you have no one to blame but yourself when it happens. Which is silly and frustrating. All right. So we're going to be working on this project right here. I'll show you guys. This is a Cthulhu symbol, and it is kind of cool. Wait 1 second. Let me tell you about it. There we go. Sorry, guys. So this is a Cthulhu symbol. The whole jacket is a Cthulhu project. You guys remember that we've done that stuff. This is what the back of the jacket looks like. This is the process that we're going down to create it. Right now, we're about halfway through making this symbol. This is where I am on the jacket right now. You can see that we have the stencil here set up and ready to go. I've taped out all of the masking. And now we're basically, kind of ready to spray. The only thing I haven't done yet is load the load the airbrush, and then take a look at if there's any way for additional, to get this down a little bit flatter. One of the problems with this type of airbrushing is that you oftentimes get a big spray. You know what I mean? Like you get overspray. One of the things that helps with that, is that the jacket is black, right? We can use black paint marker to adjust. Now, if you look around and you use a huge amount of black, well, then you're going to be able to see it, and that's not what we're looking for, right? So we want something a little bit on the subtle side, so it looks clean and intentional. It's just a jacket, right? So it doesn't have to be like totally pro. But if you do this project on your own in a relatively professional approach, if you were to get the opportunity to do some professional work, you'd understand the process instead of having to learn kind of on the job. I will say that in the process of myself learning how to do artwork, I have probably 90% of the time learned on the job, and it makes things more difficult, and it actually makes your development slower. It also negatively affects your reputation as a creative artist. If you can't do what you say you can do, then why would they trust you when you get better? Or under the gun is a terrible place to learn. You know what I mean? Under the gun. Cool. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to fill our airbrush. You do not have to disconnect the air on the airbrush to fill it at all, obviously. I just disconnect it for the purpose of being able to hold it over here without a hose knocking our stuff over. 1 second. All right. So we're painting this symbol here, like I said. And since this is one of 3 stencils, after we're finished this, we'll put a circle around it. We're going to need to let this dry for a few minutes after we spray it. So we're going to move on to some other stuff and talk about some other stencils and stuff. Color we're using is this one. This is Old Bone White. It's a Createx product made by, it's called the Bloodline series, and it's made by Tim Gore, who's kind of a special effects artist. Don't need to use a ton. I'm always telling my son the same thing, which is you can always add more, but you can't put any back in the bottle. So use a little bit, and if you use it up, put some more in. Not everyone uses the cap. I use the cap because I spray at angles and I tend to spill it. It's another reason why I wear gloves. So once we got our paint in there, obviously some days, you can see that we got our paint in there. It's sort of like a brownie off-white, which I like more than the straight white I used on the tentacles. It's fine, but I would have liked it better. There we go. I would have liked it better if it was a little bit off-white, But I'm trying to decide if I should go back in and make a little bit additional detail in there, like more white spots or that kind of stuff. The sleeve was created using the artwork of Ben Templesmith. Let me see if I can show you guys a picture of it real quick. Let's see. It does go back a little bit. Kind of been doing this work for quite a while now, it seems. Oh, you know what I can do? I can go here. Oh, maybe I can't find it. One more sec, guys. There we go. Nope. All right, forget it, guys. It doesn't matter. All right. Anyway, we're working on the sleeves, you know. So anyway, it's a good color. Off bone. It's bone white, so it's just off of white. It's good to have a little something you can spray into to check your color, make sure it's moving okay. I use a trash can, which I have here at my feet. We just check and make sure our paint is just totally all set. All right. So this stencil here is masked and set, so I'm not going to pull that one up. But I thought I would show you guys a couple of other stencils that we're going to be working with today and that I've worked with on the piece already. The first one I'll show you guys is this little tiny H.P. Lovecraft stencil. I put this on the front under the change pocket on the leather. I'm trying to decide if I should do some sort of like calligraphic H.P. Lovecraft text on the top of that pocket. The jacket is totally about H.P. Lovecraft, so you know, I feel like I should give him some credit for that. I did use his face, but I don't know if that's quite enough. So that one is already finished. This one is the one we're doing now. I wanted to show you guys this one other one. These stencils, if you guys weren't with me yesterday, I'm making using the Silhouette Cameo, which is right here behind me. This cuts out, it's like a printer with a knife instead of a gun. It prints out anything that you create in their software. Software is a little bit, you know, something to figure out, but once you have it figured out, it works really well. So what we're doing with this one is we're building a circular Cthulhu. That's the wing, that's the head, and this one here is his body. And then once that piece is placed, you know, building it out of the three pieces, there's a circle here of text. I don't know how much you guys can see that. There's all like weird runic text that go with the Cthulhu character. And what we're hoping to get at the end of the day is this image here. So we're going to circle this guy and we're gonna build out on him. But this is pretty much what we're looking for. You know, this is this is what I'm hoping to do. So this obviously has some pieces that are a little bit complicated. You know what I mean? Like there's some stuff within there that I thought was going to be hard to make into a stencil, and I think it still remains to be seen if it works out. Probably a good idea to build that stencil on something else first, but I'm kind of interested in just stream of consciousness, going ahead and working, just going. You know what I mean? So let's get going. All right. There we go. Yeah. Can't quite see me up there. All right. Sorry, guys. Can you see me okay? All right. So we got all of our stuff down here. Can you guys see that okay? Got some lighting on it. I always feel like whenever stenciling that the light reflects on it a lot. You can use anything you want to push down your stencil. I mostly use paint brushes and that kind of stuff, especially on leather because it has like this, you know, significant personality where it wants to pull up all the time. This one, you know, I just figured I would try to place a few around and kind of see what happens. The jacket is at an angle, so as you see, the lighter pieces are sliding. You know, that could be worse. That definitely seems like it could help me a little bit, especially over in this area here. right, I think we're basically out of ratchets. Maybe we'll put this one over here instead. You know, I'm feeling pretty good about that. You know, that those guys actually worked out pretty good. I wish I had one more heavy one. Another kind of trick that you can do, if you find yourself using tape with gloves on, set some pieces aside. Excuse me. So if you have a spot that really is giving you trouble and you just can't get to stay down, and there's enough of an opening, right? You can slide a piece of tape up underneath here, right? And be able to tape that piece down. All right. Now be real careful that you don't get it involved with any of your lines, you know. But that's a spot that we can do that. Whoops. As I said, set some stuff aside. And if you don't, it's on you. I wish I was a little better at setting up, but I'm not. I had a teacher once that said you can spend a significant amount of time improving yourself, or you could just accept who you are. Because a lot of times, that's going to be the outcome anyway. So we could go around and put tape under all of these sections. I don't want to. It's too time consuming. All right. Anybody else has ratchets and you think this is a terrible way to use them, I apologize. It is. You know, I'm being very silly. So, all right. So the other thing I'm going to use is I'm going to use this. I wanted to show you guys a couple of the other tools that I used. All of these tools, this is an old airbrush needle, this is a vinyl picking tool which has a tack in the end and a pointed end on the other. This is a paper spatula. This is actually made by Silhouette, but it's a pretty good project. It's a pretty good product to use to pull stencils or to move paper around. I do a lot of large collage projects, and I find that being able to slide paper around while setting up what your collage is going to look like winds up being like difficult. My hands are kind of big, and it's easier to be able to touch things and move them. I very often have used an X-Acto to do that, but then the X-Acto goes through the paper and then it's stuck. So you move it to the spot you want, you go to let go and it pulls it up. So that guy is a little better because you're sort of pushing it around. Now the only problem is that I bent the tip so it's not as flat as it needs to be, and that is the point of a paper spatula, is that it's that it's very flat. So I'm ordering another one, but I have not yet, because more often than not I use the back. All right, so let's enough of me talking, right? Can you guys see that okay? I realize that's kind of a funny angle, but not too bad. Can you see it all right? Let's get me out of here, and we'll see what we can do. All right. I'm going to use this paintbrush. I'm going to use a paintbrush to hold down the sections. Still think that's a little bit high. Hold on one sec. Hold on just one sec, guys. Just want to make sure the compressor is at the spot that we want it to be. Okay. Got it. I'm coming up from underneath the basement. So all I'm doing there is adjusting the force of the airbrush. I wish that was even lower. All right. So, like I said, you want to start off to the side. Make sure your paint's moving okay. And you want to start over here. And again, this surface is pretty tough to work with. Okay. Keep your air on. I'm going to start down in this area. All right. No, it's not super easy to see. And if you keep up at 90 degrees as much as you can, the movement of the stencil is only so relevant, because there's nowhere for the paint to go if you're at 90 degrees. Watch out for stenciling your tool, which should be catching it from the side, and then you move the stencil, then you move the paint right into the line of the stencil. This looks pretty good over there. Oh, you see this? Can you see that? That is overspray, or spitting. A little bit closer. And this is not something you want. This is a symptom of starting the airbrush over the artwork instead of over the side. Okay. Gotta make sure we get over here. Right, moving right up here. This didn't seem like that guy was helping me enough. Now see the back of my, you can see on the back of my glove how much spitting happens when you're working. Still have to start out here on the side though. Don't have to spray your hands, but you do want to start on the side. I think we were going this way up here. Oops. One problem with using these guys is if you push down, they're going to move. And we don't really want them to move, so we're going to just keep working around. Looks like we're getting a little low on paint here. Let's take a look at where we're at with paint. Not that bad. Sometimes you can get a thing called dry tip, and dry tip is just paint getting stuck on the needle. Oops, that's funny. All right. Make sure we still got enough paint to paint. All right. Little, anyways. All right. So here, I don't even know if you guys can see this because my hands are in the way. You hear that sound? That's the sound of the stencil picking up. That's a sound we don't want to hear. A little bit more paint in there. Oops, drop my lid. One thing in working in an area so tight is you can't drop anything, or it's going to be a problem. All right, so not wicked low on paint. But it seems to be spitting a little bit. So here's what we want to do. Make sure our tip is all right. There we go. All right. Okay. Grab our paintbrush again. Get back in here. And try to. There we go. Okay. Our next little piece is over here. Same thing I was saying about don't stencil your tool. It's good to not stencil your fingers either, obviously. Okay. We got this guy, but I feel like he needs a little bit more. Okay. Now we're going to work over here. This one's going to be a little touch and go because I can't get in enough with my other hand to hold both sides down. All right. Take a look around. at what we've missed. As I was saying, this other side doesn't follow. Pretty good, like we hit all of those spots that we needed to hit. Got my other stencil around there somewhere. So we have to let this thing dry for just a sec. So what we can do in that time is we can clean out the airbrush and make sure it's gonna keep working, because we're probably gonna go back and just spray that guy again. So the airbrush has been working fine, and it's all good. But sometimes it's good just to clean it out. So this is airbrush cleaner. We put a couple of drops in there, shake it up, spray it out. And this is going to help us get any paint that's stuck in the barrel of the airbrush or anything like that. Almost there. All right. Okay, so basically there's nothing in there. I use this bottle here. This is an airbrush cleaning bottle. And all it does is allow you a place to spray any like waste paint, and then it has a hole here so the glass doesn't explode as you pump it full of air. All right, this is just a rag that I'm using. It's a good idea to get out as much of that cleaner as you can. It won't really mess with your paint, but no point having it in there anyway. Okay. Another thing to keep in mind is if you spray paint in the middle of your hand, make sure you clean it off, because you'll be touching things and it'll be. Okay. Our old bone white. Always close a bottle before you shake it. I never do that. I'm forever spilling paint all over myself. Alright, once you get your paint in there, put your cap back on. We took off this needle tip, which for Grex is magnetic, which really helps me because I lose the damn thing all the time. We got some pretty good color looking coming out. So now we want to just think about hitting some of these areas that look like they're not as dark. As they could be. All right. Okay. Okay. A little bit of thread in there, but I would rather airbrush the thread than go to the time it takes to take it off. getting there. Got to make sure you keep this as much flat as possible. I often think of it as tattooing, because in tattooing, of course, you have to keep the skin as flat as possible while you're working. I got tattooed out at Anchor Street once. I believe it's in Newburyport. And it was a little tiny lady, and she was tattooing my chest. So the only way she could do it was to climb up on my lap and lean across. It was extremely funny. All right, the more up and down you can get it, more 90 degrees to what you're working on, the cleaner the stencil lines will be. Okay. Oops. Gotta make sure you keep this as flat as possible. Times, if you rush it, your fingers will take off some of your paint. You know what I mean? Like, it's sticky. As you do it, you'll feel a little more confident in it, Sorry guys, I'm sure you can't see. Alright. Looking at it, we're looking pretty good. Oh, looks like we need a little bit more up here. Okay. See, that sound is the sound of my compressor. thinking this might be the last spot. Looks pretty good. That's another spot I totally just missed. You know what I mean? What do you guys think? Look like we got everything? That edge did not want to be painted. All right, so, oh, sorry about that, you guys. Totally ridiculous that you had to look at just me airbrushing. So this is what we got. This is how far that we've gotten with it. I'm sorry about that, you guys. That's totally ridiculous. 10 minutes of spraying. Cool. So we're just going to give this one sec to dry and take a look at it and see if there's anything significant we missed. Like I said, we can edit using a black marker, and it doesn't look that bad. We can also edit with airbrush paint, which is also an option. I've made a number of custom markers that match the color that we're using. This is a custom marker here, which is in Old Bone White, which is the same color. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but there is a mixing ball in there. So we're going to try to take everything off of here and see how our stencil came out. I'm nervous. I don't know about you guys, but the hardest part is not knowing how it's kind of going. All right. What do you guys think? Not that bad. All right, looks pretty good. So now we pull off all of our tape. Just like that. Now we're going to use all that masking again, so you don't throw it away. This marker here is also Old Bone White, so we have a couple of sizes. I feel like that looks pretty good. In fact, it actually looks a little better than the star stencil. First thing I want to do, like I was saying, is go in with our black marker and just look for anywhere that is really obviously screwed up. Right here, you see that? So right here we can edit that guy out. A little bit here. Okay, touch right there. It's pretty good though. Usually I have a little bit more overspray than that. Cool, I think that looks pretty good. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our Old Bone White and a small ruler, which I thought I had right here. Just one sec, guys. That's my big ruler. Okay, well, it doesn't matter really what you use for a ruler. All I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and finish the lines. You know, we had to trim out the stencil so that we had it wasn't going to fall apart. So I always think it's funny that this paint all looks different, even though it's, you know, that's what I was using for sure. So see, once you get those in there, it starts to pull together and look a little bit more complete. I wish, like right here, we had gotten just a little bit of a darker piece of coverage. I think it's because of this is a stitch on the jacket. Right. So it's a little bit harder to go over. I know this light's going to probably be in the shot. Whoops. Oh, awesome. Don't drop your paint marker in the trash. It's very silly. Okay. Alright, there we go. At least I can sort of see it. Cleans up that line pretty good. Check your ruler every once in a while just to make sure that you're not peeling color off. Also a good idea to wait a sec after you make a line because a lot of time that paint marker will still be wet and you can get some caterpillaring, which is you know, like a line of wet paint that peels as you pull your tool away. This is an extremely inconvenient eventuality, so try to pay attention to that as much as you can. In the event you're doing this, like if you're not, my intention with this project is to inspire folks to do something like what I'm doing. Or whatever they feel like doing, you know. I'm having fun with this, but the chance of you guys having a leather jacket that you want to make like Cthulhu, using these stencils all seems a little bit on the unlikely side. If you guys haven't used paint markers, these guys right here, the Maltau empty marker, really, really great thing because you can make whatever custom marker you want. So what I did is I took these airbrush paints and I mixed, you know, lowered their viscosity just a little bit, so add like 2 drops of water, put them into these paint markers, and they totally work great. And they're really fun named colors. Like this one is Old Bone white, but then there's Dermatitis tan and Old Bruise purple, and probably my favorite, which is Expired blue. And they all have some really interesting qualities. Like the Expired blue doesn't seem to mix a lot, so it's kind of like a dark blue and a light blue mixed together. Pretty cool. I'm gonna take just one sec here. Switch to this larger. This particular marker is an empty Montana marker, which works fine, and it's, you know, different, stylistically different, which is cool. It has a larger tip on it. It's clear, like this whole marker is clear, so you can see that it has paint in it. That is a weakness over some of the Maltau stuff, that has a small strip that you can look through to see how much paint you have, but right after you fill it, that strip fills in. So not as helpful as it could be. Here's my smaller ruler. How you load these markers, in case anybody doesn't know, is you push them down on a hard surface, and it pushes the nib, which is felt, up into the paint. sort of like loading it. You know what I mean? I feel like the opacity on this paint right here wasn't enough, and then you see what happens. If you go over paint that's wet, you start to peel it up. So I don't want to do that. I don't feel like these Montanas work nearly as well as this as the Maltos do. So in the future, I won't be buying empty Montanas anymore. And it's interesting because I feel like I've been watching the marker wars. I don't know if anybody's talking about it or thinking about it, but Maltau came out with this unbelievable art creation system, like an airbrush product, a spray paint marker, and revolutionized the industry. And then the paint marker industry, because there wasn't one. And as time went on, they were, making money, and other companies decided to step in. What made Maltau different was the capillary system inside the markers. Theirs works really well, and a lot of other folks' don't work quite as well. Montana basically stole theirs, or theirs is incredibly similar. So we'll say they stole it. And then on the other side, Maltau kind of stole theirs from Unapasca, which has had the same capillary system for 20 years minimum. So they kind of misappropriated that one, so it's just kind of back and forth like that. This is the ruler I was liking to use. It has a cork back. You have to use it upside down, though. Cork back is great to make it not slide around when you're drawing with pencil. But if you're drawing with anything that isn't pencil, that doesn't have a long tapered tip, the cork will hold it off the surface, and you'll get a line that has some displacement to it. So you want to use this upside down. That's how you get it much, much flatter. Here I'm just trying to fill in the spots where we had to use the cutouts. When making a stencil, we talk about, see, like that was a rush. Like that was too quick. I got some caterpillaring. Gotta wait a sec. What was I gonna say? Can't remember. I've been using these paint markers for a couple years, for about 7 years, I guess. I've had a really great time with them. They work awesome. The more you use them, the more more stuff you'll think of you can do with them. Looking pretty good. Let's take a look at the symbol. Actually, let's try it like this. What do you guys think? We're getting there? Got to put a little bit of detail in that I had to trim out. Finish up our circles. We got the 3 circles. And we're getting really close. You can only use one effect at a time, so... There we go. Let's take a look at this for just 1 second. I need to run out and grab something. Be right back, you guys. All right, guys, sorry about that. I am back with you. All right, so I think this is looking pretty good. So now we got to go in here and finish up with our Old Bone White. Try not to lose your cap. I find the tip of the cap is a good place to load the marker because you can see if it's working over the Montana logo. But you can use any surface, you know, like I often use the front of the desk or whatever I have around. So this one we don't have a stencil we can use, although I suppose I probably have something. But this shouldn't be too difficult to just ghost the stencils effect. You know, this is one of the things about stencils that kind of sucks, you know. That you have to build them in multiple pieces. You know, this particular stencil is a 3-piece, and that's not bad. You know, like with the next one we're going to work on is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. You guys see this at all? I want to try to load her up real good. I wonder what happened there. Got a little problem. Hold on just one sec. Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. I am with you again. This has been kind of a challenging stream today, but I'm trying to keep up. Good to continually load your paint marker over and over. Really flood it so that you can get enough paint to work with. Sometimes I have to flip the nib. Back of the nib's been sitting in the paint the whole time and is often far more loaded to give you paint. All right. So that one looks all right, that circle there. Like I said, continue loading. looking pretty good. Hoping down here will just dry a little more. There's a saying which is that paint loves paint, and this is true. You know, like painting on paint is much easier than painting on the layer, the material that you're working on. Once you get some paint down, things start to get a bit easier. All right. Okay. Looking pretty good. I like it. I'm happy with it. I feel like the stencil came out pretty good. Like we made that work. Underneath everything, obviously, how much of these small details is only going to be so relevant. Here we have to bring out a little bit of a loop. There was a little bit of additional information that was going to affect the quality of the stencil, so I trimmed that out because I knew that we could simply draw it again. It's only this little line here. So you can see that additional line over there. Now this wing is just part of the back drawing. So, all right. So now we're going to let that dry for a sec. Look around, grab our black. Thinking up here we got a little overspray. So if we tighten that corner up, it'll make it look less like that. All right. You clean up a little of these spots, just sharpen up the edge. Just helps it to look a little cleaner, slightly more intentional. Creating a stencil that's all straight lines is actually pretty easy. You know, like when it comes to stenciling, it's definitely the more easy of the tasks, you know. You don't have to go crazy, you know, because this will be under our next layer. But, you know, whatever you feel like doing is cool. So again, as I was saying, paint loves paint. Like you can see how much better coverage we're getting out of this marker than we did the first time. Right. All right, so we let that guy dry for just a few. Oh, it looks like we missed a little spot in our black here too. Cool. All right, so now we got all our paints covered up, and we're kind of good to go. How you guys holding up? You still with me? We're about an hour and 10 minutes in, and we've got our stencil looking pretty good. Whoop, one sec. You know, what do you guys think? I mean, I think that it's looking pretty good. We got the second sheet in there pretty pretty nice and clean. I feel like it's really looking like the piece that we're working from. Now all we need to do is to wrap it all up with a big circle. I have the stenciled circle right here. Got to bring it over to show you guys. Right, here is the next stencil that we're going to use. I'm not sure how much you guys can see it. That's one of the sucky things about stencils. It's just hard to show. So, but basically, it's just a circle. So we lay this guy on here and take a look and see if we can make it work. Looks like we lost a little bit of white on our background, probably rushed bringing the stencil in. Unfortunately, we're losing a little bit of that circle. I'd prefer not to lose the circle. Oh, actually, I think that's what we should do. Move this way a little. To include that guy. What do you guys think? Let's take a look. Trying to get the stencil itself a little tighter. See how you can see where the stencil is? This is where we got to line it up just right so that it doesn't take away a lot of our information, but does hold in place where we want it to go. Now this one, unfortunately, is going to lose us a little bit of the bottom here. Can't do anything else because I don't want to lose the whole, this little dot up here. Really don't want to even cut too much of it out because when we're looking at the piece, that guy is just a little bit shorter than he is in our artwork. Or our circle is just a little bit larger. Unfortunately, this is the largest circle I can make right now with the media I have available. Now, I could have used two to make a larger stencil, and maybe that's something I should do, but I would like to stick with this one so that we can, so I can continue the demo. You know? Now, this is real good, so you got to figure out a way to tape it down, keep it from moving. Now this stencil is pretty good size, so you know, this is, I think it's 8.5 wide. That's pretty big for the area that we're working in here. One of the hardest things to do is to start tape with gloves on. Like I said earlier, you should tear some pieces of tape before you begin laying in your stencil. And now here I am peeling tape 10 times. Good thing is your glove will blow out around your thumbnail and then you'll be able to peel tape just fine. Take off a good piece, you know. This is painter tape. It's nothing special. It's not artist tape or airbrush tape or anything like that because those things are completely foolish. Don't fall for that stuff. You know, this is about $2 a roll. Airbrush masking tape is, I don't even know. You know, and I say that, but you know, it depends on what you're doing, right? Because if you're painting down a car, or something like that, like bullfrog tapes and stuff are really good. They're really good. I met their rep when I was in California last year, and they're just doing some cool stuff. They're responding to the industry and that kind of stuff, which is awesome. But for me, I can't afford their tapes. So I like to just use this tape. And then personally, also, I'm not doing cars. I'm doing art projects. Crafts is totally the wrong word to use. So now looking at this guy, we have it right where we want, and those other pieces are going to hold it, but we could throw that piece we talked about in the middle, which could help hold this guy down, maybe even two, because it's just a circle, So if we tip this guy up, what you want to try not to do is to tape directly on the paint that we already put in, right? Because you can easily peel up fresh airbrush tape with masking tape. So you want to try to get in here to a spot where there isn't tape, where there isn't paint, excuse me. This will help pull down our stencil a lot, and that's really, really good. That's something we want to happen. Okay, same thing here. Try not to put it on our painted lines. Just put it in between. There we go. Same thing I mentioned last time. Make sure none of your whoa, that's not the one I was looking for. Where'd it go? There it is. What was I going to say? Just watch out for overspray, and try to tape this down as much as you can, and then you can just hold it. Often getting in here to do this is a pain. Okay. All right. So when we paint this guy, we're going to be holding a lot of stuff down because it's large, and we want the most as much help as we can get. Okay. Looks pretty good. We got it in the spot that we wanted it to be. It's not taking off too much. Nothing seems to be blocking it as far as our tape goes. This tape here is in the gap. Alright, so this stencil is going to come right over to the pocket. I'm not really painting on the front of the jacket so much, but I did paint on I am in some ways painting on the front of the jacket. I think originally I was planning on not, but I changed my mind. I intend to wear this jacket, so I want it to be as specifically custom as I want it to be. All right. We could maybe use one more little piece of tape in that area. Probably not the worst idea to do this first. But when you're lining up where you want the stencil to go, it's hard to understand exactly, what you want to happen. So, whatever, the process is whatever. I feel like what do they say? Like, life is what happens when you're busy planning. So, stencils are what happen while you're busy thinking about how you want them to go. They've already gone their own way. But, control is significant. We've got a lot of these pieces to work how we wanted them to. Obviously, another thing you want to watch out for is damaging your stencil in any way. I've rolled my chair over them and stuff, and as soon as you get a single wrinkle in your stencil, it's junk. So be real careful when you're handling your stencil, when you're moving your stencil around, even when you're placing it. Okay. Thought I caught it there, but I did not. All right, now we got that guy pretty flat, even without anything. All right, so I'm going to drink this coffee real quick, and then we're going to go in and spray this one. Let's just focus on the artwork so that you can see me like last time when you couldn't. As I said, we need to... actually, before we start painting, let's do one more thing. I'm going to want to throw some masking down, of course, which I forgot to do, so we can put a piece right here. You don't have to worry so much about keeping this totally flat, although if the flapping bothers you, they do flap some. Leave that one there. Okay. A little bit smaller one. I like to use the straight line though. That helps me keep track of where. Helps me set things up a little, more square, obviously. All right. I will 100% say that painting on fabric is no screwing around difficult. It's difficult, yeah. Because it's like always moving around on you. There's bumps and stitches. Like, I'm not sure you guys can see it if I move my hands, but down here is a big stitch. So as we work over that stitch, that's going to dictate how good things kind of look, And then be careful. Right here, when we spray the stencil, if we get it on the paper, it doesn't matter. It's if we get it on the artwork. This one gonna be a little challenging. So this guy, we're gonna do our same underneath trick because it's a little too close here. Right, so that's gonna help us. Got a little thread here, but I kind of like it, so I'm gonna leave it. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna check our airbrush to make sure our paint is happening. One thing I was just talking about care for your stencils. It is real easy to throw them on the ground or to be angry with them. When's the next time I'm going to use this stencil? Never know. I save every single stencil that I make. Here's the star stencil that started this. We're going to be working with everything because you never know. Like when somebody might say, "Hey, can you do one of those on my jacket?" and you'd be like, "I already got the stencils." Now, is making stencils difficult in the context of using this machine? No. Pulling stencils is a little bit difficult because you have to get out all of the additional the sort of trash pieces of vinyl. Or not so much vinyl, the pieces that are it's acetate. Just curious if this loop here is the same as the one that we're working with. It seems like it might be. This is an erasing shield, but I was thinking it might help us to clean up our circles and make them sharper. But at the moment, it doesn't matter. We'll figure that out. All right. So now I'm going to check. That my airbrush is working, and it is. So we're going to start right down here in this area. Remember, air first. Trying to stay 90 above the stencil. Because it'll give it the cleanest possible line. A little bit of junk on the tip here, it seems like. Alright. Okay, that's back to working just fine. Again, the magnetic tip is a really big deal. I totally dig it. Magnetic tip. You can see that it seems to be working. Gonna head back in here. most of our swipe through there. Here. Best place. Okay. All right, so take a look at it. What do you think?